Hello everyone, today we are going to make a ham and cheese pocket, kind of reminiscent of a Hot Pocket sort of idea, but so much better, so much more wholesome, and it doesn't necessarily have to be ham and cheese. We are going to do ham and some different cheese varieties, but it could be leftover turkey, it could be roast beef, it could be, sliced chicken or rotisserie chicken, or you can really expand on this. But we're going to do the ham and cheese version. And then also, this is freezer friendly, so you can make these and freeze them. You can make them and eat them. It's great. So very simple ingredients. You need flour. The recipe does not specify if that is all-purpose or bread flour. If I have bread flour, that's what I use, but I've also used all-purpose and everything's all good. You need yeast, dry milk powder, salt, sugar, and some warm water. Then I'm going to be using this honey ham here. I have 2 pounds of it. I've got some various cheese I want to use. I want to use up the Swiss, so some varieties are going to have ham and Swiss. I'm going to do some ham and American, and I might do some ham and some of this mozzarella. I'm not entirely sure. So I will link this recipe in the description so you can access it directly. And there are options for making the dough by hand or by machine, but I like to use the bread machine to make dough. I actually never actually bake with it, but I do use it to make dough fairly often. So let's get started here. Every bread machine that I have ever had suggests that you put the liquid in first. So that's how we're doing this. The recipe suggests you put the flour in first, but I just have never done that. So 1 cup of warm water and then 3 cups of flour. Ta-da! To that, 4 tablespoons of dry milk powder. And I'm just going to kind of put this over here in the corner. Ta-da! 3½ tablespoons of sugar. 1 teaspoon of salt. Now, this is important with the bread machine. Keep the salt away from the yeast. So I'm going to put the salt over here. And I'm going to put the yeast over here. So we will be putting in 2 tablespoons of yeast. That's 1. And that's 2. And then we will just set this machine here to the dough setting. So I have had many different bread machines over the years. So you see dough is number 9. And I'm gonna push start. And now, because I don't use them for baking, I just pick them up at the Goodwill or some thrift store whenever they break, because they're pretty common. So we're gonna check this. So this says 1 hour and 40 minutes. We're gonna take a peek in there about halfway through and make sure that everything is incorporated. Ooh, looks like I might have a problem here. Yep, my pan wasn't down in there. Okay, so I'm getting my trays ready just to be prepared. The oven is going to be preheated at 350 degrees. And if you have silicone mats, this is a great time to use them. If you don't have silicone mats, you may want to consider getting them. In my opinion, they are one of the best kitchen inventions in my time of cooking. They're glorious. You don't have to worry about sticking. You don't have to worry about spraying. Super awesome. So you'll see that when these are finished and I pull them out of the oven, I'll just lift them off and you'll be like, wow. So anyways, silicone mats, consider trying them. My bread machine has been going about 10 minutes here now, and everything is incorporated together. It's not real smooth yet. It's definitely not a finished product yet, but it's all mixed in. So we are good, and we will come back when this is finished. So here I have my dough. Excuse the bread machine in the background. I'm making a second batch, and I just have a lightly floured surface. I did not allow this to rise in my bread machine just because it's just not necessary for this. But we're going to divide the dough in half, and you can use a knife. You can use one of these things if you have it. It wasn't the most even of halves, but that's okay. This does not have to be perfect. So this recipe is going to make 10 to 14 pockets. So how I like to divide these up is just to continue to divide my my dough. So I have 4 right now, half and half, and I'm just going to keep dividing it. So here is my dough. I have turned it out from my bread machine. I did not let it rise in there because it's just not necessary for this recipe. And I'm just going to divide this up. I'm going to use this little tool. I'm going to divide it in half, just kind of like a pie, you know, and chop it down. And we're looking for, we want between 10 and 14 pieces of dough. Now, depending, you know, of course, the less you have, the larger the amount you will have for each pocket. I have 12 little pieces here, and these do not have to be identical. I mean, you could get out your food scale and weigh them and make sure they're all the same, but it's just really not necessary. So now I'm just going to kind of roll these out, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so we're going to start rolling these out. The goal is to have something rectangular in shape, but it doesn't really matter if it's a rectangle or an oval. It's probably more like what you're going to get. There we go. Give you an idea. We're at about 6 inches by about 4 inches approximately. And now we're just going to put some ham on here. My ham happens to be chipped, but you could use whatever. We're going to put some cheese. I just have a half a piece of a American single, and we're going to try to keep it kind of bare along the perimeter here, and we're going to fold this over. There is some elasticity in the dough, so you can stretch it a little, and then you're just going to kind of press it down like I'm doing. It kind of looks like a supersized ravioli at the moment. And then I'm going to fold it again, back up, and press again, just to try to get a good seam, to try to prevent cheese from coming out. Don't be surprised if there is a little bit of cheese here and there. If you don't get a perfect seal, it is tricky. Okay, so there you go. There's our pocket. I'm going to put it seam down like this and just let it kind of hang out on the baking tray till I get a full baking tray, and then we'll put these in the oven. Here we go. Here is a tray ready to go in the oven. I do have a tray in the oven now. I ended up making a double batch for my family. So, but anyways, 15 to 18 minutes in the oven. Here we are out of the oven. You can see some of my Swiss cheese came out. Looks like the American all stayed in. And remember I told you I'd be able to lift this right up. So all done. Now if to freeze these, you would bake them as I did, then you would cool them completely and throw them in a freezer bag and freeze them. And then when you're ready to eat them, you would just pull them out, put them back on a tray, bake them for about 20 minutes at 350, and you have a wonderful pocket ready to eat. Much better for you, much better tasting than the molten lava Hot Pockets. Also, you could reheat them in the microwave if you chose to. But check the description. I am going to put a link with the recipe. And here in a little bit, once these cool down, we'll open one up.